Hi, Markus.
Yes.
You are responsible for the Brickheadz design. How long have you been in the LEGO company?
So I started working for Lego almost 8 years, so 7.5, 8 years ago, and I'm currently the creative lead on Brickheadz, and I've been working for the project for a year and a half now, maybe a bit more.
Because that's where the Brickheadz idea started, right? It started, I believe, with the LEGO Ideas program.
No, the Brickheadz actually were started internally at Lego. So there was an idea from one of our graphic designers, and then the first products we put out there was in 2016, where we launched for Comic-Con exclusives. In 2016 in San Diego, that's where they were launched, and since then we've had a big variety of different IPs and characters coming out.
So how many sets are out there already?
I should have prepared that answer. We have had 4 Comic-Con in 16 plus 12 products in 17 the first launch. Then we had 3 more Comic-Cons, so 15, 19, 4 more exclusives at the end of the year, that's 23. So then we had 6 coming in January, 29. Then we had 4 of these packs coming already, 33. We already had the following series with 6 more, 39. We're probably now on 40 with the LEGO Brickheadz as well.
40 sets.
Probably we should already be close to 50 because we have every month new products being announced, and I'm not totally aware of which ones are already in the market. But we should be around 40 to 50 products, and some of them are double packs. So in terms of characters, we already
it's over 60.
You can see already we're on 63. So
well,
the collection keeps growing.
I think that's one of the most quickly developing LEGO lines in the recent years, right?
Yes, for sure, within LEGO, at least. And we have a strong belief behind it, and there's a lot of incredible franchises to tap into, and we've been fortunate to work with a lot of these different IPs in the past. For instance, Back to the Future, we have done the DeLorean within the LEGO Ideas. We have done Ghostbusters products in the past. We've done Jurassic World. So a lot of these IPs were already relationships we had ongoing with the different partners, and we were very excited to bring them on board of this product line.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about one of them because I love the Harry Potter sets, but I was a little surprised to see them coming up because the franchise is it's no longer being let's say put into movies, at least. I mean, it's no longer active, the Harry Potter franchise. Well, we have Fantastic Beasts, we have some spin-offs, you could say, but the franchise itself is no longer active. It's couple of years past its activity. So how did you come to come back to this franchise?
There's a lot of focus on Harry Potter and a lot of expectations around it, the same way that happened with Star Wars. So when we jumped on board with Star Wars, there were also not so many new movies, or it wasn't what it is now again, and there was the nostalgia factor. There was this adult generation that was very connected to it, and that was introducing the franchise through the old movies to their kids and so on, and there was a lot of potential there. And we see a lot of potential the same way now with Harry Potter. The franchise is already quite old. The kids that grew up with it are now becoming parents, and they are introducing the books and the movies to their kids. So there's a lot of potential there to be the entry point of a lot of these kids into LEGO. And on top of that, there's also the partnership with Warner, and they have their plans of promoting the franchise and bringing it back to the kids' minds of today. And on top of that, having, as you mentioned, the Fantastic Beasts movies coming, and they have a big plan around it. And the second movie is coming out later this year, and there's at least 3 more movies planned after the second one. So it's a 5-movie franchise that they are planning. And the promise that they have right now is that as the movies progress, there will be more and more tight, close relationship between Fantastic Beasts and the Harry Potter universe. We'll be seeing the characters getting into more of a crossover because time is getting closer to the timeline.
I've seen one of the sensational things about the new Fantastic Beasts is the young Dumbledore, right?
Yes, exactly.
So it's an example of a crossover.
Yes, and we're going to start to see more events happening in the Hogwarts ground as well, so there will be a lot of recognition from the old fans that knows the Harry Potter movies. They will start to see a lot more in a lot of the background of the story of Hogwarts and Dumbledore. And who knows what other characters she might bring into these new movies.
Well, that's very interesting. Is there some kind of franchise that you dream of tapping into that has not been explored yet?
Yes, but I cannot mention it.
Okay.
I definitely have my wishes, and I'm still crossing my fingers and working my way into getting them on board. So we'll hopefully see.
Okay, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you. What about the Star Wars? Are you personally a Star Wars fan?
Well, I have to be honest, not a huge fan. I like some characters in particular. I have some affinity with certain characters, but more from a visual point of view, not so much relating to the character itself. But I've been fortunate enough to work on some Star Wars stuff along the last few years, and I did work on Darth Vader.
Oh, it's lovely.
And I was very happy to take on the challenge because I knew how important it was to get him right and how adored he is as a character. So I thought it was a fun little exercise, and I'm a big fan of Stewie's version of Darth Vader from Family Guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's Family Guy, right?
Yeah,
yes.
It was Family Guy.
Which, with the proportions of everything, undeniably can become some sort of a association to it.
Yeah.
So
you've made him quite cute. That's amazing.
So I think I'm very happy with it, and I did the Comic-Con exclusive from last year with Boba Fett and Han Solo in Carbonite. And again, knowing how important those characters are and how iconic those characters are, it is an extra challenge to try and replicate them in this form and make them accurate.
Yeah, I'm guessing maybe you should try adding sound effects to them, like maybe some kind of sound brick that you press Vader's head and he starts breathing, because it's a little odd to see him not doing the...
Yes, you never know. I mean, it could be Brickheadz 2.0 in the near future.
Theoretically, of course. Alright, I'm asking about Star Wars because of the new Han Solo movie, which is a bit controversial from what I gather, because I haven't seen it yet myself, but I was told that the movie is actually pretty good as a movie, but the problem the fans have is that nobody asked for this movie, that they already know what is going to happen to Han Solo, so they have no interest in it really. How do you feel about the movie, the characters, the entire direction the franchise is taking?
Well, it's completely beyond my ground of comfort. I haven't seen the movie. I didn't ask for it either. I haven't even seen all of the previous movies. So I know Han Solo from the pop culture and from seeing him in, maybe I've seen Force Awakens. So I saw that he died. Spoiler alert. But that's as much as it goes. We knew that Star Wars was invested in creating these movies, and I think there are still very interesting stories to pull out there. And there's a whole new audience that, don't necessarily know these characters and might not have seen the originals like I haven't. And through these new movies, they might actually feel drawn to go back and revisit the old movies and connect the threads. So I think there's definitely space for all these new stories. Whether they will please everybody, they won't. They will never. No story does. So I think there's always space for variety, and I think we're living in a time and age where the variety is so incredible, and it's so great that we're reaching this place where you can find, pretty much anybody can find something that they can enjoy and some characters they can relate to, and I think that's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that the Brickheadz line could go towards recreating real people? Like, I'm thinking about the Beatles, the Yellow Submarine set with the Beatles minifigures, which I believe had a lot of potential. How would you feel about, I don't know, making, for example, a Queen set? Because we have the Freddie Mercury biopic coming up, the movie. So maybe that would be an interesting direction to explore for you?
Who knows?
Okay. I would love to see Freddie Mercury in that form. I think he would look cute too. Was there any particular figure that was quite challenging for you, that you had to really work hard on?
In particular, from the ones that are now out, Blue, the raptor from Jurassic World, was particularly challenging because we were breaking the mold of a Brickheadz quite drastically, and we were trying to figure out, is this even something we can achieve in a successful way? And I got a lot of challenge from my marketing manager at the time because she wasn't the most confident that we could push Brickheadz that far. I was strongly a strong believer that the franchise could carry it and that we could stretch it that far, that we could still get something particularly iconic and relatable and cute and cool at the same time. And I'm very happy to see now that the product is out in the market that is actually performing quite well, and a lot of people are buying it and appreciating it, and it looks much better in real life than in the packaging. I wish I brought it here to show it to you now, but it's I think it was one of the ones that had the most iterations in terms of exploring how far does the head come out and how do we balance it up so that it doesn't just tip forward. And so,
what about Chewbacca? Because I think it retains the form of the Brickheadz, but it looks quite different from most of the figures.
Yes, it was also a challenge because everything that breaks too much the form, it's a fine line between sticking to what a Brickheadz is and keep that recognizability, but still bring in the iconic features. So Chewbacca was important that he would look taller, so when you have him standing next to Han Solo, he is slightly taller in the head, so we extended the head part. Yeah. It's important also to convey that kind of roundness of the fur that just goes around, so that's how we played around with the forehead parts and took away a bit of the squareness that all the other Brickheadz have. So again, it's about finding those key features of the character, of the design, that stay true to Brickheadz, but also represent what the actual character is.
All right.
So it was also particularly challenging. Yes.
Can you maybe on exploring the form of the Brickheadz, can you maybe think of a character that would not be possible to turn into Brickheadz?
We have come, in terms of exploration, we have mapped out a lot of different things. Pretty much any of the franchises we are entering, we do some sort of exploration of what other characters we can bring in the future and expanding in. Not wanting to give away too much and not promising anything, but I can say that within the Star Wars universe, there's a certain lizard creature-ish bad guy that is very weird form and very opposite of the proportions of what Brickheadz are. I'll let you try to figure out who that might be.
Because I was thinking about, for example, Jabba the Hutt. He would be.
I might or might not have been referring to that, but it's when you play around with the Brickheadz are very much a exaggerated head and a tiny square body. Anything that goes in the complete opposite direction will always be a challenge. How do you convey that same iconicness of the silhouette and the proportions, where the form that you start with is the complete opposite? And we might or might not have come to a solution that we think is good, or we might still be working on it, I don't know.
Okay. You have recently, I believe, introduced a smaller Brickheadz.
Yes.
That guy over here, right?
We call him the Buddy.
The Buddy.
So we have the Brickheadz and the Buddy.
The Buddy, okay. I believe the introduction was officially with the Harry Potter set and the old.
Yes. So Edwig has the honor of being the first one in the scale of the Buddies to be introduced. We are definitely expanding on these.
Are you seeing a lot of potential in the smaller form?
Yeah, we thought that there was an important differentiation in scale for certain characters. Like, again, touching on the idea that these key features that define the character are what we're trying to represent here. And there were some characters, in particular, one that is going to come out later in this year, that really sparkled the discussion that he couldn't be depicted in the same scale because it simply didn't work. And then we started talking about a couple of other characters in different franchises that if we were to ever execute them, it would raise the same question, like, does it look right? It doesn't. And we started thinking that we needed to allow ourselves to explore a little bit on the scale. Because you could argue, for instance, do we have Dumbledore and the kids from Harry Potter? They are the same size, but it's not a defining feature of the character differentiating this side. If we're starting to talk about giants in the universe, maybe, but not within these two. So we felt the need to explore what would it look like if we were to differentiate the scale. That's how this little guy came around, and then based on that we created Edwig and created a couple of other characters that are coming out. We have a total of 4 buddies already coming out in the market very soon.
Cool. That sounds very interesting. Let's talk about the Brickheadz mini set. How are you looking at the potential it has? Because I think it's on one side it's a very fun set for the people to play with, but on the other side, I think it may pose a threat to LEGO company because, for example, it gives the opportunity to recreate maybe political content. For example, I can imagine somebody building a Donald Trump figure and making some video with it. So I think there is it's a bit risky, you know.
Well, it's a fair concern, and we try to think and cover. We have our concerns around all those matters as well, but. From the moment the box gets out of the LEGO store or any retail store, there's only so much we can control what people do with our bricks. And we have seen for the whole history of LEGO things that are a bit more controversial than others appearing here and there, sometimes even utilizing the LEGO brand unauthorized, whether it's by mocking up a fake LEGO set of something that is totally not within our values and something we would do, and the LEGO fan does it and posts it out there and then creates this impression that maybe LEGO is somewhat doing something like that. So there's those cases that we simply can't control, and the same applies to this SKU. Here what we are trying to promote, and I think we've been quite successful so far, is creativity, allowing kids and grown-ups to have a kind of a guided freedom so that you don't have this daunting experience of what do I do when I open a LEGO box, or when you're in front of a pile of bricks, where do I start? We give you the start. We tell you this is how you build a Brickheadz. These are the proportions. These are the main bricks that you need. Now you have inspirational images, you have inspirational models. We tell you how to make a ponytail. We tell you how to make this kind of beard or this kind of hairstyle or a striped t-shirt. And once you get those things under your skin, then you are, much more inclined and hopefully much more encouraged to allow yourself to be creative. And I think that's the main purpose of this product, and that's where we are seeing a lot of success already, and we're very proud of that.
Let's talk about the building techniques, because Brickheadz seems simple on the outside, but I'm looking at it and I'm seeing a lot of creative techniques like the upside down beard for the Dumbledore, or I really love how the scarf for Ron is separated from his head. It's a half stat separation, if I'm seeing correctly. So that's pretty complex stuff, and there are some new pieces introduced as well, if I'm correct. For example, the glasses for the Brickheadz mini set.
Yes.
So on the purely building technique side, how challenging it is, how much fun are you having with coming up with all these solutions?
Yeah, well, the main focus for us is to make sure that it is still a very core building experience and very achievable, because it is supposed to aim for a lot of new builders, so newcomers into LEGO. So we need to make sure that the building experience is fairly simple and understandable in the BI form, the building instructions. Having said that, because of the challenge of bringing in those recognizable features of the characters into Brickheadz form, we do face a couple of challenges here and there sometimes, and we have fun with it and trying to come up with new ways of utilizing the shapes, still trying to stick to basic shapes as much as possible, basic bricks, slopes, curved bows, and so we don't have a whole lot of differentiated or specialized parts in it, because it is also very much part of the DNA of Brickheadz, this very clean and squared look of the LEGO bricks. So in that sense, it's very core to what LEGO is. We created the glasses for the Go Brick Me SKU, and also having in mind that we were introducing Harry Potter eventually, and we wanted to make sure that we had the right piece for it. So, but those are the actually only two pieces that we have introduced within Brickheadz. Everything else has been introduced by some other product line, and we might have utilized it in our advantage. Like, for instance, the tile for Darth Vader's mouth, it was introduced, if I'm not mistaken, by Speed Champions. And as soon as we saw it as being created, we thought it's going to be perfect for this character.
Cool. All right. Let's talk about franchises. If I'm not mistaken, pretty much every Brickheadz set so far has been based on some existing franchise, with the obvious exception of the Brickheadz Me. Do you feel there is a potential for the LEGO company to also try sets that are not tied to any franchises, like for example the collectible minifigures? They are internally created, they are not tied to franchises.
We're actually already putting out there some products, seasonal themes. So we have already, if I'm not mistaken, a bee and a bunny out in the market. So a bunny themed around Easter, it was coming out just before Easter. And you have a bee with a little heart and some flowers that is themed around Valentine's Day. And there's a couple of more coming throughout the year based on Thanksgiving, Halloween, Christmas, and I think that's it. And so the door is already open. We are already exploring that. What is to come, can't say, but the door is definitely there.
Oh, that's very interesting. Do you think one of these bodies could be used to recreate some cute animals, like for example a hamster?
Yes, I think the opportunity is definitely there. As we showed with Edwig, the door is open for recreating these animals, and I can guarantee you that we have already explored a lot of different animals from different franchises and not franchises, just to kind of explore and see what would these look like in Brickheadz form as an exercise. And so there's definitely a lot of potential, and I think we are already seeing some creations from fans as well, which is very inspiring and very good to see. I've seen some family portraits with dogs and cats, and it's quite fun to see.
Yeah, because I think that the potential in franchises is enormous. For example, you have the Simpsons franchise, which could be very nicely, I think, translated into the Brickheadz.
Yeah.
And I also can't stop thinking right now about the recent deal with the Blizzard on the Overwatch.
Yep.
Brand, so that's a lot of potential here. I think that I obviously can't ask you about.
You can ask, I cannot answer.
Okay, that's how it works, right? What else? So which one of these is your favorite one, if you have one?
Character-wise, I like a lot of them. I really like Blue. I really like Martin Dr. Brown. I love Venkman. I think it really came out really good, and I'm really happy with the whole product. I love them all, honestly. I have the whole collection, and I encourage everybody to get the whole collection as well.
All right. I think we can wrap up.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That was a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to many more of these coming up soon.
Stay tuned. More to come.